This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
All right, that disclaimer is important today, Danny, because we're going to go fast and furious. Lots happened last night, and when you nickel and dime things, they eventually start to add up. Let's make that the message today.
Okay, and I know you're saying there's a lot of numbers. So.
Yeah, if you were a betting person, you could bet your bottom dollar how many times we might have heard, but council told us to do this. Keep in mind that back in June, city administration came to council and said, here you go, these are all the cuts you asked for. And then they never really talked about it. And then they pushed it through. And now here we are several months later with people going, wait a second, did we approve this? Yeah, you did. And so guess what happened? Away we go. So if you have a driveway and you need to get a new driveway permit, your permit's going up from $31 to $50. Okay, what does that actually mean? Not much. But another big thing that's part of that is driveway culverts. If you live in the country and you have to have a culvert, you got to build your own. And so now that money that used to be used for building culverts for people now goes back into the budget. So it's $30,000 reduction. Got me? Keep up, because this is going to go fast.
Okay.
Councillor Aiello, who of course is representing a lot of people in the country, said this is targeting rural residents. We can't do that. I want to put the $30,000 back in. No, didn't happen. Lost. Council said, nope, that was a reduction. We're taking it. So now you got to put your own culverts in. That's just the first one.
Oh.
So $30,000 that was removed from the budget will continue to be removed from the budget. You see how this goes?
Got it?
All right, let's keep going. So in the operations department, there was a couple of things that came up, and I've always been a fan of looking at these things going, I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know we did that. For example, there's an expansion in the budget in operations for Red River Road construction. You know, the big deal in Red River Road, we're going to rip it all apart. Well, in this upcoming budget, there is an increase of half a full-time employee, $36,000, to dedicate staff to plowing and removing the snow in the downtown core and still keep existing timelines for plowing operations. Now, the other day, the sidewalk plow went by this building twice, and there was no snow on the ground. Anyway, expansion of this budget item. The addition of this budget item also includes $50,000 for contracted pressure washing of the street and sidewalk. $86,700. That carried. And then away we go. Here's a good one. Reduction in downtown litter debris. Well, there is a lot of litter. So this reduction of the person half-time would be $63,000 taken out of the budget. So savings. Follow me? It would be down to one person working both sides of the city to clean up litter. This would, of course, help us from clogging the basins that go into the sewers. A council approved this back in June, this reduction of staff for less litter pickup back in June. And then the games begin. The first amendment came from Councillor Agrawal, who says, no. Get that person back. $63,000. We'll pay for it. Brian Hamilton again, and I don't mean to gush over this, but here's the voice of reason saying, in this amendment, Council, we've already approved this, and we said that this was going to be tough. You can't start putting stuff back in. You see what happens when we don't spend wisely. Councillor Itrini and Mayor Boshkoff agreed with him. This doesn't save us a lot, but there's principle here. So $63,000 amendment to put that money back in by Councillor Agrawal, lost. It's out. Still only one person cleaning both sides. But here's where the public service of the night announcement came from, where Councillor Cicino, who needed to somehow get involved in the conversation, says we need to demand more of people. We need to remind people to clean up their trash. That'll do it, because it's a society issue. It's not a Thunder Bay issue. It lost $63,000 coming back out of the budget. That brought our budget down to 5.49%.
I thought we were at 5.48 the other day.
No, well, there's...
Okay, I get it. It's going
all
back
right,
and forth.
a couple more things. Here's a good one. And again, these are the little things that I find in the budget early, and then they come up, and I go, I remember seeing that. Reduction in sidewalk replacement to use asphalt instead of concrete for repairs. That's right. You got this beautiful new neighborhood, and a sidewalk breaks or falls apart. Let's just patch it up with some black pavement. It's ugly. So the amendment comes to the floor. Councillor Aiello says it looks awful. Move it out. Put it back in so we can start spending $40,000 again to put concrete back instead of asphalt. $40,000 back into the budget. No, carried. $40,000 come out. So far, we've already saved $120,000 because we're leaving those reductions in.
I know, and I know you're
me?
moving fast, but
Yeah.
just for clarification, patches will be done in asphalt on sidewalks? That's passed?
No, the service level reductions to meet council's budget of 5.5%, reduction of $40,000 carried. So that's asphalt.
Asphalt. Okay.
All right. It's really fantastic. All right. Did you know that there are 40 planters in downtown on the Red River Road area with planted trees, shrubs, perennial grasses, and flowers? Some of these plants, by the way, are grown in the city's conservatory. But these planters require watering, mulching, weeding, and it's all provided by the park's horticultural staff. Gross net budget impact, $36,200 back in the budget for somebody to water these things and to weed them. Carried. All right, let's go. This is the biggie now. The amendments started fast and furious, where councillors now have the opportunity to put stuff back in or bring their own things forward. I get a little critical on these kinds of things because some of it is nickel and dime stuff, but some of it is more principle. The multi-use trail expansion, a memorandum from Councillor Greg Johnson. Yeah, he put in a memo recommending that the recreation trails budget be increased by $85,500. Let's put $85,000 back in the budget for trails. In my opinion, most of them are empty. We have a lot of trails. Do we need more? Do we need $85,000? Council thought so. They put $85,000 back in the budget, carried 8-5. Next, the curbside leaf and yard waste program. $170,000 to be removed from the budget because they went from 4 days of pickup to 2. Follow me? Mm-hmm. That then led to an amendment because there's always amendments to the amendment. Councillor Cezzino says, well, hey, why don't we amend this from instead of going from 4 days to 2, let's do it to 3. Back and forth, all just to save a couple of bucks. It was carried. So now there'll be 3 curbside waste pickups. Yep. And finally, the library. This was the most contentious discussion of the night. They have a $21 million infrastructure budget deficit. The city gives them $6.9 million now. It's designed to take care of everything that the library does. I am not saying that libraries are not valuable. They absolutely are. They're an important part of every community. But the library is in the midst of a major centralization project.
Yep.
That centralization project does not come before council until next January. The library showed up last night and asked for another $150,000 to work on that project. They're asking for $150,000 to work on a project that hasn't started yet, that hasn't come in front of council. So a little bit of the cart before the horse. So this $150 was, to administration standard, we can't do it. We're not doing the plan yet. We haven't seen the plan yet. We're not investing in the plan yet. Back and forth we went. Councillor Hamilton, again, highlight of the night, reminded council that we need to stick to one thing at a time. This council doesn't have a lot of focus. We need to focus on one project. Is it going to be the library, the centralization of the library and them moving to the mall? Is it going to be the turf facility? Is it going to be all these other things? Stick to one thing. So administration's advisement was don't spend the money right now. Much to the dismay of the library, that was carried. We're not giving the library $150,000. So during all of that, 11 o'clock showed up. Again, I miss Councillor Johnson because she was always the one that put her hand up and said, no, I don't want to go past 11 when they do the 11 p.m. resolution.
Right.
Councillor Johnson on the resolution at 11 o'clock wants to speak to it, says, no, I don't want to because it's late and, quote, we're nowhere near being done. Let's end the meeting now, move everything to the next meeting. A few of the councillors were seen chuckling at that because we're not sure he understood what that meant. In the meantime, it was the 11 p.m. resolution. They voted on it. All of the councillors says, yeah, let's keep going. The meeting ended at 11:23. These are the kinds of things that go back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
Last night, again, with all of these nickel and dime things, you have to remember that these small expenses start to add up, and they add up fast. At one point, we were at 5.51%, which, by the way, is over what council approved. But at the end of the night at 11:23, we ended at 5.47. This is going to be an interesting process because now, as we go through this, these are the things that council can control. But seeing these councillors continue to bring these extra spends is going to start to hurt that. But remember, there is a resolution to keep the tax increase at 5.5%.
Yeah.
Can they do it? They don't have a choice, or they have to change that resolution. It's going to be a very, very difficult week next week.
Yeah, there are 2 meetings next week. Then February 12th is when this budget is expected to be ratified. Just by hearing all of these numbers and you breaking it down, originally started at 5.5, then it went to 5.48, then
5.51.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, and now 5.47.
Right.
I think we have an idea now. As I don't think we're going to be I don't think we're going to be moving much more than that. Maybe I'm predicting a 5.4-ish. So this gives the public an idea that 5.5-ish is pretty much bang on.
Yeah,
Right? Do you know if is
well,
that fair
there's
to
still
say?
some big things to come, though. There are still some significant
That would
expenses.
increase or cut?
Well, there could be a cut to one if somebody finally says, "Hey, what about this turf money?"
Oh, right. Okay.
There's a lot of
There's
big
the
ticket
turf.
items.
Yeah,
I will say this though, again, and I hate to keep pointing out Councillor Hamilton, but he did make a funny last night when last night passed and carried $10.7 million in the budget for the demolition of Victoriaville. It's happening this year. That was approved, and it was a funny moment of the night when he made sure he mentioned, "I can't believe this is actually happening," because it was there. It was in black and white.
Yeah.
So $10.7 million. Victoriaville starts to come down this year.
Wow. That's a lot to break down, John. Thank you.
6 hours and 23 minutes, Danny.
Wow.
I had 2 coffees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens next week, and we have more budget reviews all next week. All
We'll be
right.
back next week.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate your time as always. It's 8:01. News coming up.